On today's episode, we have the inspirational Raphy Mendoza in. She's an artist, a coach, and a brand expert. We talk all things creativity, artistic expression, and how authenticity can aid healing. Please do like and subscribe as we've got many, many more interesting people coming in. Enjoy. Have you ever noticed that your best ideas come when you stop trying so hard? That's not coincidence, that's neuroscience. When we're relaxed and authentic, the brain's default mode network, the system behind imagination and self-reflection, lights up. It's the space where creativity is born. But when we try to fit in, the prefrontal cortex, the part that filters and edits us, becomes overactive. It senses possibility. It's like putting your soul through a spell check. Authenticity on a neural level is your brain's permission to connect freely, to link memories, emotions, and insights in a way logic alone could never do. That's why creative flow can sometimes feel spiritual, because in that state, the boundaries of self soften and something larger moves through you. Neuroscientists call it transient hyperfrontality, when your inner critic quiets and pure expression takes over. Mystics call it alignment. Different language, same truth. When you're real, you're free. And when you're free, creativity isn't something you do, it's something you become. So the next time the inspiration strikes, don't chase it, trust it. That's your brain and maybe even the universe creating together. Hi, Raphy. It's lovely to have you here. Thank
Hi,
you for
Lara.
joining us. So I'm sat here with Raphy, who is an artist and a creative facilitator.
I'm a coach and I also facilitate groups.
Yeah,
So I just say
brilliant.
coach and facilitator. And
Fantastic.
I'm also an artist in the traditional sense.
Amazing. Fantastic. I'm so excited to get to chat to you and find out what it is that you do and like your journey with it as well, which would be really interesting. So, if you could just share a bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
Okay, so I'm Raphy Mendoza. And like I said, I'm an artist and I'm also a coach and a facilitator through my business that I founded called Co-Create. And really, what at the crux of what I do is I empower artists and creatives or creative entrepreneurs to be seen and loved and fundamentally paid for their art. You
Yeah.
know, that's the crux of it. And overarching that commitment is a much larger commitment that I have, that every artist in the world realizes and sees themselves fully. And when we see ourselves fully, what we realize is we're not just someone working alone in a garage making products. We are leaders in the
Mm.
evolution of human consciousness. Now, that's not what's on my byline because nobody understands what that means. We will talk about it, I'm sure. But it's really, we live in a society where art and creativity is qualitatively fundamentally valued by people who experience it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have art galleries, we wouldn't have music concerts, so on and so forth. And yet that value seems to have there's more of the bridge to go because these are jobs, these are roles that are quite often difficult to make it in.
Mm.
Society sees these roles and these pieces of work as quite often a nice little hobby
Yeah.
until you've become Taylor Swift, until you've become Marilyn Manson, until you've become Van Gogh. And yet it's exactly these things that connect us with who we are at a fundamentally human
Mm.
level. And with the age of AI coming, I believe that that's going to create a huge disruption in society. It already has.
Mm.
AI is going to become as ordinary as a smartphone or a car. And when a seismic shift like that happens in society, one thing that invariably happens, and one thing that we can predict, is that what human beings value will shift.
Yeah.
I think that value is going to shift towards art because these are the things that carry things like connection, depth, intimacy, and these are the things that AI can't really replace. And these are the things that we're already starving for, and we're going to be starving for even more with the kind of AI output. That's just going to be so much of it. And that really shifts, like what we can what we now have to create as artists. We can't just keep making products. We have to really hone in on ourselves and go to depths of ourselves in our own consciousness and our own humanity, and have that be reflected in our work, and have that be reflected in how we represent our work through our personal brands, through the
Mhm.
communities that we create, because that's what is now going to be required. No different than when photography came along, all of the Tudor painters kind of like essentially lost their industry.
Yeah,
What happened out of that, impressionism was born, expressionism, cubism, and new forms of traditional art that wasn't just portraiture.
yeah.
We have to do the same thing now. And throughout history, artists have led the the evolution of consciousness
Mhm.
as technology happens, as these disruptions happen. Sometimes the disruption is war, sometimes the disruption is a technological advancement, sometimes the disruption is, I don't know, like climate change or whatever. But it's always the arts that keep keep us anchored to our humanity. And so fundamentally, as artists, we have a role as leaders in the evolution of that human consciousness, and we don't see that in ourselves, and then we wonder why our work isn't valued by the external world, when actually the external world is just a mirror of us, because we are the leaders of that consciousness.
Yeah,
So it's really about, a yes, supporting artists to build their brands, to do their marketing, to have a sales system so that they can make money, but it's also fundamentally shifting how we see ourselves and how we perceive ourselves and how we allow ourselves to be perceived.
yeah. For
So
sure.
that's what I do.
Mm. I love the way that you spoke about how art and artists are the thing that keep us anchored.
Yeah,
I remember during lockdown, the dreaded lockdown chat, but during lockdown, how there was such a focus on key workers and things like that and keeping them going and keeping them running. Yes, that was keeping the country running great. But what were people turning to for healing and for that comfort? And it was the arts, it was music, it was watching, theatre performances. It was finding these hobbies, as you said earlier. It's not a hobby, it's a way of life, isn't it? These
yeah,
painters and things like that that actually nourished our souls and
yeah.
kept our minds going and kept us going. And it is such an important thing in
Mm.
life. And it's the part of life that, if we look back, shows what humanity was doing at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's keeping record of it.
Yeah, 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 for sure. And there's this really, really cool quote. I think it's by C.S. Lewis, and it went something like, like art, poetry, and music, these things aren't necessary for survival, but what are you surviving for if not for these things? That's not how he said it, but it was something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, because we're not on this planet to just survive.
No.
And we're not on this planet just to procreate. Like, somehow, for some reason, human beings developed a kind of self-aware consciousness that has us search for meaning and purpose.
Yeah.
Our dogs and our cats who really are just looking for food and cuddles, right? And so, we're looking for something beyond that. And why is that? I don't know why, but we know that that's true of us.
Hmm.
And yet, so many people are just in such a relationship with their lives where it is just survival, and it's not necessarily their fault.
Yeah.
And there are times, particularly I look at, like, first generation immigrants. I'm from the Philippines, and and there's so much focus on just making money, or making as much money as you can, and creating generational wealth
Hmm.
so that your kids and the next generation don't have to suffer in the way that you do. And for the time, that's right, and that gave them purpose,
Hmm.
because they're creating a new life for the future of their kind of, their legacy. But once that survival is secured to a degree. You don't want to just keep surviving,
No.
and even when we're at a point where it feels like all there is survival, particularly right now for so many people, the cost of living crisis is a real thing.
Yeah.
And yet, what are you actually really surviving for? That's a question that human being has the capacity
Hmm.
and the drive to answer.
Yeah.
And sometimes we forget that that's really more of who we are than the job, than the survival, and that we're surviving in order to. And so it's not that survival isn't important,
Hmm.
it's that what are you surviving for? Like, what is it that you want your life fundamentally to be in the service of,
Hmm.
other than the self-serving continuation of your one life?
Yeah. That brings up a conversation I had with someone recently about what success is as well.
Yeah.
Success
Yeah.
to me isn't a full bank account. Yes, that helps, but success to me is being able to sit in the morning and have a delicious coffee and
Mm.
then think to myself, okay, I don't have to rush to the office. I'm going to take my dogs for a walk. I'm going to go enjoy nature for a little bit. And then I'm going to come back and sit and do my work and enjoy my work. But then also, I'm going to stick some music on in the background and let that, carry my mood for the day. And that to me is success, not that constant drive and productivity in a way.
Yeah, and I have nothing against productivity. I think, like for me, like my success would be going to bed at night tired and happy,
Hmm. Yeah.
and I am one of those people who like are very driven, and like I have
Yeah.
ambitions, and I am very much a proponent of having financial success, but not for the sake of it,
No.
but it's for the sake of giving you the freedom to dedicate your life and to commit your life to something that's bigger than you.
Mhm.
And for me, that is the artists awakening to their roles as leaders in consciousness.
Brilliant.
And so everything that I do in the day is towards that purpose. Like, so I was speaking to one of my clients inside my membership. So we have weekly coaching calls in there. And, she was struggling to create structure in her day. And so
Mm.
there was just a lot of this conversation around, I've tried all the productivity things, of time blocked and so on and so on. And I'm like, okay, well, these are all great strategies. And actually, it's not that the strategies don't work, but it's like, are you connected to what it is that you're doing all of this for?
Yeah, the
What's
bigger
that,
purpose.
what's that overarching commitment for you? And I was telling her, like, literally, it's the one thing that every single action in your day is in the service of. And she made a joke and she was like, well, like, does that include having a poo? And I was like, well, actually, yes, And then I gave an example about brushing my teeth because it's like not my favorite thing. I don't like the sensory experience of brushing my teeth. I don't like the sensory experience of having dirty teeth either. So it's just an
Yeah.
idea. But so I have to commit to brushing my teeth twice a day.
Mhm.
Like, but why am I making that daily commitment? It's not because I have a larger, greater purpose for oral hygiene. And it's not because like I have a crush on my dentist, which I do, but that's not why I'm doing like it's if I'm serious that my life's commitment is that artists awaken to their role as leaders in consciousness, then that means that every day my commitment has to be in the service of being a source of empowerment for everybody that encounters me. And I can't be that if my breath stinks. I
Absolutely.
can't, and I can't be that if I'm in pain because I have cavities all over the place.
Yeah.
So yes, brushing my teeth, even though I hate it, is something that I commit to in the service of artists awakening to their role as leaders in consciousness. And so for me, going back to the question, it's like success is being able to live on a daily basis, knowing that everything that I do is steeped in meaning and purpose, including the mundane things of checking my bank account, doing my taxes, doing my life admin, making dinner,
Mhm.
and so on and so forth. And within that, there would be micro commitments that you make. Maybe that's to seek beauty in the small things. Maybe that's to seek
Mhm.
whatever it happens to be. And the way that we take care of ourselves is also all in the service of that, like much like the brushing the teeth thing, the way that, I exercise not because somebody told me to.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
because like I want to take care of my health and my longevity because I've got a big job to do while I'm here. I'm big
yeah.
living a big life. And so, and financial success allows me to amplify my impact.
Mm,
That's all. Like otherwise, there's no attachment to what money means. Money doesn't equal success. It
mhm.
does equal freedom of X, Y, and Z
Yeah,
to then create the success that you define for yourself.
yeah. Beautiful. So you mentioned things about like health and that side of things. So I suppose with these chats, I'm looking at the side of like healing and health and what
Mhm.
that means to people because people's definition of healing is completely different.
Yeah, of course.
So,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
with what you're talking about, sounds like it's quite a healing experience
yeah,
for you.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
what would you say healing means to you?
Okay. So etymologically, let's step away from my definition.
Yeah,
We'll come back to it, but etymologically, health has its roots in wholeness.
yeah, okay.
So wholeness is means so if health means wholeness, that means healing is the process of becoming whole, which is the process of integration and
Hmm.
becoming integrated, which is the foundation of self-leadership, which is all the things that I just talked about, right? So yes, healing does mean having having a certain level of command and flow and function in your physical wellness and your mental and emotional wellness, right? But most people stop there.
Hmm.
You're quite lucky if you get like, a GP that really understands emotional wellness. But then there's also like your social wellness, your sensory wellness, your financial wellness, your environmental wellness, like, and all of these things. And so, if we want to talk about health, we really have to look at it as a whole. And, all of this conversation that we had earlier about art, creativity is part of that. So there's two things I want to touch on. One is, inside my membership, I have a mini training on the seven types of energy.
Hmm.
And I've kind of like, I mean, there's more, but these are like basic elements that allows you to kind of like just do like a quick audit of like how are you feeling? How are your energy levels? So we're talking about energetic health here. And so you have your physical health. And this is just checking how you're feeling, right? You have your physical health, any chronic things that you're managing, your energy level, so on and so forth. You have emotional health. Like, how are you feeling emotionally? Are you dysregulated? Are you feeling fulfilled? Which then crosses over to spiritual wellness. Do you have something that anchors you to who you are as a human being, that anchors you to a greater source of power? Doesn't matter how deep you are in atheism, if you're in this conversation, you believe in something that's greater than you, otherwise you wouldn't find your way here
Yeah.
like 5 minutes ago. Um, and there's and then you have uh what did I mental health, so but that's not just like, PTSD, depression, etc. That's obviously a whole section of it, but it can be as simple as, are you in overdrive with your mental health and that's affecting your sleep and so on? Sensory health, are you in environments that are conducive to what you want to do and accounting for your hyper or hypo sensitivities? Social health, have you got a support network? Are you spending enough time and energy in exchange with other people? That energy transaction is really, really important. We talked about spiritual health. There's one more: sensory health. So it could be, that's really about pleasure. Like, are you experiencing pleasure? Yes, I also mean sexual, but I also mean, are you happy in your clothes?
Yeah.
Are you happy in, like, does the food that you're eating, is it is it entirely functional, or is it also a sensory experience for you that's satisfying? And so all of these spaces, like, that all contributes to health.
Hmm.
And then beyond that, that's just bringing an awareness to like the wholeness of your entire system in your body. And then beyond that, when we want to talk about self-leadership, which is important when we're talking about success, and and for me, like, yeah, like leadership and consciousness, like what does that mean? It really does mean like taking care of all areas of your life. So last night we kicked off round two of my group program, You the Artist, which is all about personal branding, but we start by doing a life audit. So I asked them to look at 12 areas of their life, which included those things that I just talked about, but things like their accounts, how, like, what's their relationship with money and doing their accounts? Is there an avoidance there? Are you avoiding conversations about money? How about your relationships? Are you avoiding difficult conversations? Are you maintaining friendships that are actually draining you? Or are you not taking care of friendships that are serving you and should be taken care of? And the same with relationships, your environmental space. Is your house a mess? Like, and this isn't about like being perfect, but this about really having a landscape overview and awareness of all areas of your life and taking leadership from there and bringing intentionality. And so throughout the 12 weeks of the program, as we go through the different elements of branding, part of their homework is to clean up one thing from these areas of their lives.
Yeah.
And and that's really important because it's not about having like a perfect life, and it's not about having zero messes in your back end. It's about having the humility to understand and be aware that mess is part of life,
Hmm.
but so is cleaning up.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, we skip the cleaning up part and we just shame and guilt ourselves about the messes that we've created instead.
Yeah.
For some reason, that's what we like to do. That seems easier than just cleaning it up. And so, and the metaphor that I came up with was, if you made a spill in the kitchen, you're not going to self-loathe yourself out of it for like, you're just going to clean it up and move on. And
Yeah.
it's the same with all the other areas of our lives. So when I say that health means wholeness, this is what I mean.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so in coaching, that's similar to a model that I use with my clients. And I ask my clients to think of their life as like a wheel.
Mhm.
And the aim is to get a big juicy tractor wheel, but sometimes we're just on like training bike wheels, and
Yeah.
sometimes that wheel is like wonky on different areas,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
it's still rolling but it's not
Yeah.
comfortable. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
it's that kind of, as you were saying, that understanding of, okay, this area might be low right now, but
Yeah.
if we give it the awareness, then the acceptance, and then the action, that area can go up, and that can then pull up other areas of our lives.
Exactly.
So the aim is to have this big juicy tractor wheel, but I think the fun in life is being able to look at all of it and being like, okay, what do I need to do now to make me a whole person?
Yeah.
I love
Exactly.
it.
And that's the model of health that I like to work with. And that I like, it's like, what does health mean and what does healing mean? It's bringing that awareness and the acceptance and the action. I like how you brought those three together. And that is the process of healing.
Hmm.
And it also starts from this idea of wholeness, like you're already whole as you are, like you are enough. And if you can, it sounds really cliche about like self-love and etc. And most people don't know what it means. Like they
Yeah.
really don't. And what I mean about self-love is really this like radical self-acceptance that as we are already whole.
Hmm.
And if you can radically love that for all its imperfections, then you can make these changes, you can make these transformations in the service of having that full tractor wheel life rather than coming from a place of wanting to change the wheel altogether.
Yeah.
To take that metaphor, and it's like, like I was saying to somebody, well, the conversation I think was about Botox. I haven't done any work like that, but people were talking about it, and somebody in the conversation was like, well, if you're really wanting to do that much work on your body, like then maybe you just need to work on actually accepting yourself and
Hmm.
accepting your body. And I thought, well, kind of yes, but kind of no, because like if I had a house that I loved and I decided I wanted a new kitchen, like you wouldn't be saying this to me. So
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
why are we like creating shame and guilt for people and judgment around what they want to do to their bodies? Because actually, you can come from a place of, I love this house so much, and that's exactly why I want to have a new kitchen because I want to enjoy it all the more.
Yeah.
And it's the same with our bodies now. So it's not so much the action that's the focus, it's more where is it coming from?
Yeah. So I've always said when it comes to plastic surgery and things like that, but I would never say no
Yeah,
because I don't know what I'm going to look like or how I'm going to feel in, 5 to 10 years time. I might end up being like, okay, I want that nip and tuck. I want that Botox. Or right now, no. And also I'm terrified of needles. But in 5 or 10 years time, yeah, that might be the thing that changes my self-confidence or can aid me in loving myself a little bit more. But you are so right. You need to find the root cause of it to
yeah,
then be able to figure out what needs to happen.
yeah.
So, do you think your understanding and your actions on healing have changed over time?
Totally. Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, there's two stories I can share about
Okay.
that. Good luck editing this, by the way. So, okay, easy example. I recently signed up to some one-to-one personal training coach person. So it's a friend of mine called Anya. We've been friends for over a year now, and I've wanted to work with her for a while, and I finally did it. I signed up to some one-to-one, and it was a big investment, and I like making big investments because it forces you to bring awareness, acceptance, and action at a different level
Hmm.
because you've put money and skin in the game.
Yeah.
Um, so that's by the way. And I was speaking to her, because I was asking, it's like, well, what level of one-to-one do I actually need? Because she has different tiers. And so she was asking me some questions, and I shared with her, I was like, like I've been through 2 rounds of burnout. And that's the main reason I stopped going to the gym in the first place.
Hmm.
Because I got to a point where I was literally just like on the floor and couldn't move. So when I talk about health and wellness, like I'm coming from an experience of being on the complete other side of that coin.
Yeah.
And and at the time, that I was training really hard. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed lifting heavy. And my personal best was deadlifting 90 kilos.
Wow.
And I was weighing in at 75. So like for all intents and purposes, like I was successful in my gym efforts.
Yeah.
But the real reason I was in the gym wasn't because I was trying to heal anything. It wasn't because I was improving my body. It was because I was so deeply angry,
Hmm.
and I hadn't addressed so much of this emotional wound.
Yeah.
And I was just desperately trying to find a way not to accidentally murder someone.
Yeah.
Like, because that was just this like, and the only thing that I had was the gym. And because of the adrenaline that happens, it was just like, okay, it became an obsession that I anchored myself to, because my emotions and my regulation of all aspects of my other health, the 7 areas that I talked about, was all over the map. Like, you
Hmm.
talk about a wonky wheel, I don't think this one was rolling.
Yeah.
And so, and not just because of the gym, but the way that I approached the gym was pretty much the way that I approached everything else in my life. And that's when I burnt out, like
Hmm.
completely and totally. And so it's really been quite, a journey of really learning. Like it's like what is this really about? Like why am I really here?
Hmm.
And and during that whole time, um, the burnout lasted about 13 months.
Okay.
And that was like its own experience. And during that, before that, and after that, for most of my life, since I was maybe about, I don't know, like 9 or 10, or maybe, that kind of age, maybe a bit older, like 10 or 11, I've I've had experiences of depression, like from that young age. And in my teens, suicidal ideation started coming into place, and really like deep periods of depression. And one or two attempts that kind of were far too half-assed to really go anywhere,
Mm.
but it was an indication of where I was at, which was really just this space of being lost, not having a purpose, not really understanding why I'm here, having a lot of creative drive and a lot of energy and a lot of like kind of like mental knowledge, curiosity and capacity and nowhere to place it. And like no guidance, like just nothing. And I'd been so used to having this conversation inside my head of, are you gonna do it? Are you gonna exit? Are you not? Like, and like, oh, I want to, or what's the point in everything, etc. And then at some point, it was just like, all of these questions, like, what's the point? Why am I even here? What does it all mean? Who even cares?
Yeah.
Sure, like everyone listening to this have asked these questions at some point in their life with that
Absolutely.
tone of resignation. But I got to a point where I was like, okay, Rafi, like we've been having this conversation for near on a fucking decade.
Yeah.
Will you decide one way or another? Because this is fucking boring.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, like I'm clearly not gonna exit because I haven't done it, so I'm
Yeah.
just gonna stick around. And then it was at that point where it was like, okay, well, now that you've decided to stick around, like, what are you going to do? Like, now that you've decided to stick around, what is the point? Why does it matter?
Mhm.
What are you doing it for? And why are you sticking around? And the questions were the same ones that plagued me for a decade, but they had a different tone. And it was no longer from resignation, it was from curiosity. And once that flips, then you start really engaging in an inquiry, a really alive inquiry about your purpose, about your vision.
Yeah.
And, and then that becomes the point. And it gives you enough energy to keep growing, keep transforming, keep evolving, keep exploring, keep getting curious to a point where, like you say, all of the other areas kind of like start kind of like following suit. So it's this like that axle in the middle of that wheel is that purpose, is that sense of um really being in an engaged conversation with yourself about what is the point, but from a place of curiosity and service rather than resignation.
Yeah. And I love your use of curiosity there. I think that's such a powerful tool to have
Yeah,
because there's these things where, okay, wake up and say three things you love about yourself. Go to bed and say three things you're grateful for. Great, it's been done.
yeah,
Okay, right. Rah, 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 I can do all
yeah,
of this. But instead, when you ask yourself, right, what three things am I curious about?
yeah,
That gives you a sense of direction and purpose almost like,
yeah.
hey, let me go look into that. Let me go find that curious. And as you said, it keeps you growing and evolving and changing.
Yeah, it takes you down, curiosity takes you down rabbit holes. Sometimes those are subreddit rabbit holes, which I, do not recommend depending on who you are. Um, but like also curiosity can also take you down rabbit holes into your own psyche. And for those of you who have studied any kind of Jungian kind of archetypes or Jungian kind of theories and frameworks, you know that when you go into rabbit holes of your psyche, sometimes you end up places that feel quite dark and feel like you don't want to be there,
Yeah.
and feel like it's been locked up for ages and it's really dusty, or it's just completely locked and you're kind of like running down this rabbit hole and then you're just hit with like, oh, I'm not supposed to go there kind of an
Mm.
experience. And so why am I saying that? Because fair warning, but also be curious. Be
Mhm.
curious about why that door is locked. Be
Yeah.
curious about why it's so dark and shadowy over there. Bring a flashlight with you and
Yeah.
and really shine a light and like get curious. And sometimes the things that you find are unpleasant. But then that gives you power because you can clean up,
Hmm.
you
That's
know?
one of the things I've had to learn recently. And I've always been so scared about looking at the shadow side of my life.
Yeah.
And it's always been like, no, must not open that door. I live in the light. I am a being of light, which is such bullshit. Absolute bullshit. And this is going to be like, I'm going to sound really controversial here, but if anyone comes to me and says love and light, I'm going to tell you to fuck off. Like, do not bring that
Yeah.
crap around me. Love and light is so, so toxic. The
It's
most
avoidance.
healing,
It's
yeah. the most healing I've had has been from working in my shadow self,
Mm.
from finding those deep places, from finding, the things that I don't like about myself, or the experience that I had, or, the things that changed me forever. Those are the areas which are going to help me grow and develop and be a better person and be a healer or an artist or whatever I am.
Yeah, totally. And like replace this with whatever you do, but your art or your work can only meet people at the depth that you can meet yourself.
Absolutely.
And you either, and this is the thing, and I say this specifically and intentionally with zero judgment. You either do it or you don't. There's no should.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. And simultaneously, I was running a masterclass on Sunday, and like I was talking about, like, the role of artists in the age of AI, etc. And one of the things that I said was like, look, you have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to become this leader, you know. You don't have to step up to this level of leadership, to this level of life, to this level of anything, to this level of responsibility. You don't have to create your community. You don't have to, etc. And yet, if you are hearing this conversation, something drew you here.
Yeah.
And yet, if you've chosen to be an artist, then you kind of don't really actually have a choice. Because, like, no one chooses being an artist because it makes money. Like, no. Like, no one chooses it because it's easy. No one chooses it because it makes sense. Like, you choose it because you're called to.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in a way, yeah, of course, you have a choice. You can say no to yourself.
Mm.
But you are the one who's going to have to live with that feeling like a betrayal.
Yeah.
And, and so, in a way, you kind of do and you don't have a choice. And another way of putting this, I was speaking to somebody who's an actual genius. We spoke for like an hour, and like the whole time my jaw was just on the floor. Her name's Amelia. And she was like, well, there's the algorithm of like the computer,
Mm-hmm.
and like which you can say is like, when we are in our kind of like coded patterns and our coded stories and our coded um experiences from our past that then form our identities and form the narratives that we tell ourselves about ourselves and about the world and our relationship to the world. That's a kind of algorithm that gives us a set of heuristics that then determine what we're going to do next, no different than AI.
Mm-hmm.
That is kind of how our identity, our psyche works. Like, this is well studied. So that's one option is to follow the algorithm, which is your conditioning, or you throw a spanner in the works and you make different choices and
Mm-hmm.
you step up to a level of like leadership from a place of alignment with your higher purpose and with a bigger something bigger than you, like a
Yeah.
soul. and and so that is another algorithm on itself, but it's not based on your past experiences. It's based on energetic light codes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she was talking about. And that's kind of your only two options. You go by your story-based algorithm, or
Yeah.
you go by, some other algorithm that nobody understands,
Yeah.
like, and make different choices from a different place.
That
And so,
that sounds almost like surrendering in
exact
a
well, exactly,
yeah.
exactly. And but it was just a really interesting way to look at it from the point of view of like an algorithm. It's like,
Yeah.
and really being able to see it's like, oh yeah, we're just operating on an algorithm
Mm.
of our conditioning. Like, do we want to make a different choice?
Yeah. And choices as well is so when they say, you come here with lessons to learn,
Right.
and those lessons are going to keep punching you in the face
Yeah.
until you learn them and you make those choices. And if you're going to keep repeating the same thing again and again and again, nothing is ever going to change.
Yeah.
So throw that spanner in the works, make different choices, be curious, explore, and
Yeah.
be creative with it. Because
Yeah. Yeah.
otherwise, you're going to get punched in the face repeatedly and it's not going to be great.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, with burnout, it was like, was really one of the truest blessings I've ever had.
Mm.
And don't get me wrong, it was fucking horrific. You know, but it just forces you. That's just like there could just comes a point where it's like, you know, and that was also one of the first moments that led me to the conclusion, or like the moment where I got really bored of my own conversation about exiting this life.
Yeah.
It's like, really kind of experiencing that as life having your back. It's like
Yeah.
life or the universe was just like we need you for something,
Mm-hmm.
and like whatever you're doing is so off, like that we're just gonna have to strike you down so
Yeah.
that you can like get over this and then like realign. And so it's quite brutal, but like if you can kind of take it neutrally, it's really like, oh yeah, like life's got my back,
Mm. Yeah.
because it could have let me carry on for, another 20, 30 decades, and I would be in a completely different space.
Yeah. I remember, so I had a complete burnout about, gosh, almost 3 years ago. I
Mm,
just started uni. I'd left my job in the NHS, a very cushy, well-paying job. Hated it. Absolutely hated it. I was dealing with finances. I was dealing with spreadsheets every day. There was nothing human about it. It was awful for me. That's someone else's dream job and they could do it well
yeah,
and
yeah,
they'd love
yeah,
it. Not
for
for me.
sure.
So I left and I went to uni and to study neuroscience. And that was incredible and it felt like the right thing. But then also there was the money side of it that had to
Yeah,
come. So I was working and I was working until midnight some nights, getting up at 5 to then go to uni, which left no space for anything else in my life. And my life crashed and burned so hard to the point that I couldn't get out of bed.
yeah.
I was just so unwell. And I remember going to the doctor and being like, okay, what's wrong? So they found out that I've got a heart condition. So I
Mm,
sat with my cardiologist, who it was incredible. And he was like, right, I'm going to speak to you about your heart. Here we go. Here's your meat suit. Let's talk about that. So we spoke about that for 10 minutes. And then he turned around to me and he goes, so most other cardiologists won't do this with you, but what else is going on in your life?
mm,
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about your emotions. Let's talk about your support system. Let's talk about your creativity, your enjoyment of life. All
mm.
of those things need to be taken into account
Yeah.
for you to be able to function and do this. And it gave me such a chance to sit back and be like, oh shit, I've lost my way. I
Mm,
have completely gone for the wrong things and, thought I was on the right path. But it was life being like, no, no, you're here for something else.
yeah,
You were not here to push around spreadsheets and money and all of that. You're here to help people. You're
yeah,
here to be that source of happiness for others.
yeah.
And when you said about burnout being one of the, the most pivotal moments in your life and being really important to you, like I share that as well. I wouldn't wish it on anyone because it's hard, it's tough.
I wouldn't take it back either. Like,
No, and that's it. It's
yeah, yeah,
life changing. And it's I think I share that with you that it's one of the most pivotal moments of my life as well to
yeah,
go through that.
yeah.
Um, if you had advice then for yourself before the burnout, or for anyone who is at the start of their healing journey,
Mm,
what do you think it would be?
hmm. I tread very carefully here because if I could give that version of me advice,
Mhm.
I wouldn't.
Brilliant.
I just wouldn't. It's not that I don't regret things,
Hmm.
but I would, but no, I don't regret anything enough to want to take it back.
Yeah. Okay.
Even the most horrific moments, right? And And simultaneously, if I were speaking with somebody that's on the edge of burnout, it would really depend on who they are and their level of seeing. Like, if it's somebody who, some people just need to go through that process. Like, if I hadn't, I wouldn't have got it.
Yeah.
I would have been carrying on in the same direction. And that's the trap of a strong constitution,
Hmm.
is that
Yeah.
you can just keep going and going and going and going. And until until there's nothing left, and then you wonder why. And and by that point it's kind of like it's really difficult to reverse, but some people have to go through that, otherwise it's just none of the words that you say makes any sense.
Yeah.
And for some people it's less necessary,
Hmm.
and actually it's a bit like what your cardiologist said to you. It's like really asking them, like, who are you? Like really remembering, like, what, who, like, yeah, like, what, who are you? What's the space that you hold? Like, really, why are you here? What is the point? And asking those same questions that we ask ourselves when we're sad and can't be bothered with life anymore,
Hmm.
but asking it with a different level of curiosity.
Yeah. And there's that sense of compassion as well. Like, okay,
Yeah,
like
you know.
this, you might be in the shit right now, but let's be curious, let's be kind to ourselves, and let's.
Yeah, and compassion's an interesting word because, like, etymologically, it comes from two words: calm being with, and passion being suffering and emotion.
Hmm.
For some reason, in the old-timey language, they're the same. And the early Buddhists would tell you that emotion is the source of all suffering. I don't agree with that, but compassion is to essentially to the capacity to be with somebody's experience, to be with somebody's suffering, to be with somebody's emotions. And in the same way that we can only meet people in the depth that we've met ourselves, we can only hold compassion for others with as much compassion as we can have for ourselves.
Yeah.
Actually, what tends to happen is when we don't have that compassion for ourselves, any kind of like niceness that we exhibit towards others is nothing but niceness. And
Hmm.
I don't rate niceness. It's
Yeah.
just something that we do because we're told to be nice as children.
Yeah.
It's empty and it's hollow, and it often comes with a quiet resentment of
Absolutely.
people, right? And
Absolutely.
so, yeah, that has to start with yourself and being able to be with your own suffering wholly and fully.
Mm.
Again, wholeness is health.
Yeah.
And if you can be with that, then that's your first step. That's your first step to
Love it.
anything else.
I love it. I found that with the therapists that I've got on the best with, or the healers that I've have really helped and changed my life, they're the ones that have been through it, that have the lived experience, that have done the work. You
Yeah.
can always tell people that have gone off to uni, got their degree, gone on and done whatever, and then come and they help people. But it's that fake nice that you were
Yeah, yeah,
talking
yeah, yeah,
about.
yeah.
It's like, oh, I can tell that you haven't gone through it yourself, or
Yeah.
that you haven't experienced it or done the work on yourself, and you know how hard it is. And
Yeah.
having that lived experience does change a lot. Thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful to talk to you. And I think I could talk to you, the whole day about all of this. If people wanted to get in contact with you or work with you, what are you up to and what's the best way to do it?
Okay. All right. So, there's many ways to work with me. High ticket, low ticket. I work one to one, I work in groups, and I also have an ongoing membership. So the best thing to do is hit me up on my DMs on either Facebook or Instagram. I'm not on LinkedIn in a useful way, so find me on Instagram and Facebook. And so right now, so I've just started the 12-week program on personal branding. So if you are an artist or a creative entrepreneur, and you are either building your brand for the first time, you're looking for a rebrand, or you're just at the point where you're like, I have got what I think is my brand, but it feels not quite it. It feels hollow, or it's not getting me the income or the recognition or the reach that I want, then this program might be for you, because a lot of the time, the challenges that we face when it comes to the business end of things, it looks like it's a strategic problem, but
Mm-hmm.
99% of the time it's not. It's an identity calibration problem. And so the work that we do over these 12 weeks is 90% building the identity of somebody who can hold the success and the income and the visibility and the recognition and the authority that you say that you want, and building that that version of you and stepping into that version of you that can hold all of that. And then pretty much any strategy can and will work for you because it's going to be aligned to that something bigger that we've been talking about this whole episode. Um, so the next one will be starting in March. So if that's for you, hit me up. We can have a conversation. Now, if you are kind of at the beginning of your journey as a creative or as an artist or a creative entrepreneur, you might also want to think about my membership, which is an ongoing thing. So it's not a program, there's no middle, beginning, or end. And it's really designed for people who have realized that creativity is part of their energetic and well-being wholeness and they need the extra support and accountability to make sure that they are prioritizing time and space and energy for their creative pursuits. Because when they're not, you've realized the lack of fulfillment is draining you, and yet there's the practical challenge of just making time for it in the face of life's endless demands on your energy and attention. So if that's resonating, then talk to me about my membership. And now, if you are an established entrepreneur, doesn't matter in what field, and you're experiencing a ceiling in your business, and you're seeing that any all the strategies that has worked before or used to work and that you're throwing at it now isn't quite hitting the mark. The reason is you're now at the stage in your business where you're being asked not to get clever with your strategy or to apply somebody else's strategy or apply somebody else's voice. It's now time for you to get rooted in your own creative self-expression. That is one thing that AI can't touch. That is one thing that can't be out strategized. And rooting into that is the key to you generating those dream clients, generating more income, and skyrocketing the impact of your brands. And it doesn't seem related, but it 100% is because of all the reasons and the things that we talked about in this podcast. So if that's you, I have a really fucking juicy retreat set up for you. It's 3 days, 4 nights in Iceland, beginning in March. And if that's you, again, hit me up. There are gonna be limited spaces in that retreat, and you're gonna want to be in it. I'm doing it in collaboration with two amazing spiritual guides from Iceland called Alma and Rabi, and we are actually running a Telegram event in a couple of weeks to give you a little bit of a taster and experience of that. So if you're interested in that, find me on Facebook, find me on Instagram, and we can have a conversation.
Brilliant. Oh, Raphy, that sounds incredible. So, everyone, get in contact with Raphy. She will change your life.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time today. It's been lovely to talk to you.
Thank you for having me.
Right.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.